So it's about time that I talk about the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie starring Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone called Bugonia. Bugonia. Bugonia? Bugonia. 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 However you want to say it is fine by me. Spoiler warning up top. I will be spoiling this film pretty much from the outset, but if you're curious, this is one of my favorites of the year and you should absolutely seek it out if it's playing near you. I gotta say, this has been one of my most anticipated films from the moment it was announced. And right up front, I'll mention this is an American remake of a Korean film called Save the Green Planet from the early 2000s, a film that I saw on a whim maybe 6 or 7 years ago that completely blew my mind. I actually made an entire reel that I recommend you watch where I talk all about that movie. I thought it was wild, hilarious, and tragic all at once. It's a film that, for whatever reason, doesn't really get talked about enough, even in cinephile circles. And the best way that I could describe Save the Green Planet, if you've never seen it, but you're familiar with Hollywood sensibilities, is to imagine something that sits somewhere between Danny Boyle, Edgar Wright, and I don't know, maybe Terry Gilliam. It has that kind of kinetic energy, that punk rock style, that slightly chaotic blend of tones. And so imagine my surprise when it was announced that Yorgos Lanthimos, the director behind Poor Things, The Favorite, The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, was taking on the English language remake. I was honestly perplexed because Yorgos is, how do I put this, interesting? I think for me and a lot of people, he's one of those filmmakers where the highs are really high, but when he misses, it's just not for me. The Lobster didn't really work for me, but The Favorite did. Poor Things I thought was fantastic. Kinds of Kindness was kind of a letdown. So truthfully, Bugonia could have gone either way. And I'm happy to report that for me, this one's a success. I had a really great time watching it, and part of the reason for that is I was itching to see how it would compare to the original. Now, that can go one of two ways. You either spend the whole movie comparing it to the original, and you end up disappointed because it doesn't live up to what you already have in your head, or on the flip side, the remake ends up surpassing the original in some way, becoming the version that just feels right to you. I mean, it happens in music all the time. Think of Johnny Cash's Hurt. A lot of people would argue that that is the definitive version outside of the Nine Inch Nails version. So I found myself wondering, would Yorgos' version of Save the Green Planet outshine Jang Joon-hwan's? And honestly, I'm not sure about that. We could pump the brakes on that conversation. It does a lot of things right. It does a lot of things differently, but overall, it stays pretty consistent with the message and the broad strokes of the original film. I will say though, coming off another English language remake from earlier this year, Spike Lee's Highest to Lowest, which was a reinterpretation of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, I was kind of wary because I was really let down by that one. Watching Kurosawa's film right before definitely made the Spike Lee version feel a lot weaker. But that wasn't the case here with Bugonia. I think Yorgos does something really smart. He injects a lot of himself into this version. The original had this wild, energetic, punk rock editing style, kind of like Train Spotting or The Beach. And this one doesn't. This one is very much a Yorgos film. It's still, it's composed, it's unnerving and deliberate. He doesn't mimic the style of the original. And I actually really appreciate that. But before we go too deep into that, let's talk about what this movie is about. At its core, it's about a disgruntled man who's fallen deep into a web of online conspiracies. He's become convinced that a powerful CEO of a major pharmaceutical company is actually an alien from the Andromeda Galaxy sent to Earth to observe humanity and to report back to her mothership during the next lunar eclipse about whether or not the human race deserves to survive. So he does the only logical thing and he kidnaps her, locks her in his basement, and his plan is to force her to admit that she's an alien and convince her to take him with her to the mothership to plead humanity's case. That's the premise. And let me just say, Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone absolutely kill it in this movie. This is a pretty sparse film in terms of cast. There's only about 4 characters with any real amount of dialogue, and the majority of the movie is just Jesse and Emma going back and forth like it's a high-stakes tennis match, and they are riveting together. Jesse Plemons is just phenomenal. You could see the descent into madness, the paranoia, the way that conspiracy thinking eats away at him. You feel that unraveling. And Emma Stone is perfect as this cold, calculating corporate executive trying to talk her way out of a ridiculous situation. She uses this precise PR-coded doublespeak to try to convince him that she's not an alien and that he's lost his mind. And watching them bounce off each other, it's electric. And a lot of that has to do with the script, but their performances seem to be elevating the material quite a bit. Now, while we're on performances, I want to give a huge shout out to Aidan Delbus, who plays Don, the cousin and co-conspirator of Jesse Plemons' character. I thought he was phenomenal. He is an actor who is on the autism spectrum, and it added a whole extra layer to the character because he's being manipulated by his cousin into helping him with the kidnapping, and it is heartbreaking to watch because you could see this confusion mixed with his loyalty clashing. And there's one line in this film that he delivers that nearly brought me to tears. On the flip side of that, I was not totally sold on Stavros Halkias as a serious actor in this film. I like the guy. He seems funny and charismatic, but here he plays a local sheriff who used to babysit Jesse Plemons' character, and I just didn't really buy it. It felt like the tone shifted whenever he was on screen and not necessarily in a good way, and that's actually a pretty big change from the original. In the original film, we actually spent time with detectives investigating the missing CEO. In Bugonia, that subplot is mostly gone, which just kind of felt like a missed opportunity. Which is funny because it's almost exactly how I felt about Highest to Lowest, because that film completely abandons the idea of having a police procedural in the back half of the film and instead just has Denzel Washington find the kidnapper on his own. But anyway, we're not talking about Highest to Lowest, we're talking about Bugonia. Visually, this movie is gorgeous. Poor Things set a pretty high bar, but this might be my second favorite Yorgos film in terms of its visuals. There are moments of true beauty, a lot of shallow focus, dreamlike blurriness, where only the eyes are sharp. It was pretty wonderful to look at. And tone-wise, this film is pretty fascinating. On the way home from the theater, I had this thought that Bugonia might be the kind of story that could actually be remade every other decade or so, like A Star is Born or James Bond, because every generation could reinterpret it for their time. The message that people become radicalized by fear, by paranoia, by their echo chambers just feels just as relevant now as it did 20 years ago, maybe even more so. And I'll be honest and just reiterate something I said before. When this remake was announced, Yorgos wasn't the first name that came to mind. My brain immediately went to the obvious ones like Ari Aster, or Danny Boyle, or Edgar Wright, directors who could have captured the manic energy of the original. But seeing what Yorgos did here, I kind of get it now. He didn't try to imitate it. He made it completely his own. And I kind of think that that's what a remake should do, not be a shot-for-shot translation, but a reinterpretation, something that keeps the bones but changes the tone. See what I did there? Now let's talk about why this film works right now. We're living in this strange, hyper-polarized, conspiracy-fueled era. People radicalized by algorithms, isolated in their own digital echo chambers, and the movie tackles that head on. Emma Stone's character literally diagnoses Jesse Plemons. There's a fun little back and forth where she says she has a degree in psychology, and she tells him that he's been consumed by the internet, that it's warped his perception of reality. And the scary thing is, you kind of believe both of them. You know, you believe when he insists he's not crazy, and you believe her when she says she's not an alien. It becomes this mirror for our current moment where nobody trusts anyone and everyone thinks that they're the one who sees the truth. It's almost like we're all alien to each other. And that's sort of what makes this remake feel pretty timely. The world is like this right now. That said, I do think that Yorgos offers less empathy for Jesse Plemons' character than the original did. In Save the Green Planet, we get a sense of how he became this way, his childhood, his trauma, a lifetime of being failed by authority. This version sort of sidesteps that. There are hints, possibly something dark involving Stavros as his babysitter, maybe something went on when they were kids. But it doesn't fully explore what turned him into who he is, and that's maybe one of the biggest missed opportunities of the film. And honestly, that ties back into the tone. Bugonia is pretty punishing at times. It's not playful in the way that the original was. Yorgos strips away all of that anarchic energy, and maybe that's for the best, given the subject matter. The original could afford to be chaotic, but this one felt like it needed to feel like a slow motion nightmare, which is perfect because that's one of Yorgos' strengths, creating discomfort, that steady, suffocating unease where you just know that something is off. And he holds that feeling from start to finish. Now, let's talk about the ending, because I was so glad that they decided not to change it. If you've seen the original, you know what's coming. Emma Stone's character is revealed to really be an alien from the Andromeda Galaxy. Jesse Plemons was right the whole time. She returns to her Andromeda mothership, and the alien council decides that humanity has failed its experiment. We've destroyed our planet, we've destroyed ourselves, and it's time for a reset. And then comes this devastating montage. People all over the world just drop where they stand. They're dead at work, at the beach, at weddings. There's children and old people and young people and middle-aged people, people from all cultures, from all classes, from all walks of life. Humanity is just wiped out. It's grim, it's haunting, but it's also kind of darkly satisfying. Like, maybe this is what we deserve. And while the ending is portrayed and executed differently than it is in the original, it's the same thing. And that ending still hits. I love seeing it play out again, especially watching the audience reaction to it. People who haven't seen the original, seeing people in the theater gasp as the reveal landed. So yeah, Bugonia really worked for me. It's a reminder of how remakes can work when they stay true to the story, but let a new filmmaker change the tone, the texture, and the rhythm. It feels like a perfect update for the moment that we're living in. And maybe the most depressing thing about it is that the message hasn't changed in 20 years. The aliens said it then, they'd say it now. Humanity is still destroying itself, still fighting each other, still wasting what we have on this beautiful planet of ours. And then this sort of leads me to talk about the title itself, Bugonia, or Bugonia, however you want to say it. At first, it sounds strange, even a little bit alien, but once you dig into it, it becomes an apt metaphor for the film. Bugonia refers to an ancient Greek myth about bees spontaneously emerging from the carcass of a dead ox. The ox decays, and from that corruption comes something alive and structured. And in a way, that's what this movie is about. Humanity decaying under greed, paranoia, and self-destruction. And from that decay, through Jesse Plemons' desperate obsession and Emma Stone's alien presence, emerges a kind of reckoning. And that title, it just captures this strange, unsettling process, destruction begetting something entirely new, and maybe even inevitable. So yeah, for me, this is another high point for Yorgos Lanthimos. Jesse Plemons gives maybe one of the best performances of his career, and certainly one of the best performances of 2025. And Emma Stone continues to be one of the most consistently fascinating actors working today, and producers working today. Let's not forget about that. But make no mistake, this is not an easy watch. It's heavy, it's tense, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't have the playful energy of Poor Things or the period absurdism of The Favorite. It sits somewhere between Killing of a Sacred Deer and Kinds of Kindness, with some performances that do sort of feel like Poor Things. But it's got just enough visual beauty and emotional intensity in the performances to keep you absolutely locked in. It's one of those films that lingers. It's one of those films where I record one of these reviews and I realize I haven't even mentioned half a dozen things that I probably should be mentioning. It's one that I'm going to be thinking about for a while. And honestly, once again, I wouldn't be surprised if in 20 years from now, somebody else takes a crack at remaking Bugonia and Save the Green Planet. Because if the world keeps going the way it's going, this story is not going to lose its relevance anytime soon. And that's a damn shame. But anyway, what did you think of Bugonia? Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you've seen Save the Green Planet or if you plan on watching it after watching this. I cannot recommend it enough. I think it is so much fun, but it is tonally and stylistically so much different than what we get from this Yorgos Lanthimos version of it. But again, the bones are there. The structure is there. It is pretty much the same movie, narratively, just told in a very different way. And on that note, let me know what you think of remakes in general. Are there any other sort of foreign films that you think deserve an English language remake? Let me know down in the comments. And when you're done down there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out on this very channel. Go follow me over on Letterboxd so you can see what I'm watching, when I'm watching it, and I'll see you all next time.